you're going to be privy to a major announcement that we're about to make. And that is around this issue of violence and crime and fratricide. The Institute of the Black World 21st Century has, as a part of its major work, dealing around issues of criminal justice reform or criminal justice restructuring or accountability, as well as mass incarceration. And so today we want to talk about that within the context of issuing a call to Mayor Eric Adams that something can be done. And that something is to convene the people in their entirety to address this question. Again, IBW is involved in this work. We have a Police Justice and Accountability Task Force under the leadership of Ronald Hampton, who is a former executive director of the National Black Police Association. And he is a retired police officer and one of the best in the country. In fact, the Institute of the Black World 21st Century is, in fact, actually engaging corrections officers and police officers and scholars around this issue of reimagining public safety and law enforcement. Now, there's a concern, obviously, and that concern is the increasing, well, first of all, we just want to say, obviously, we had this high profile visit by President Biden, as I was mentioning earlier, with the Mayor Baraka, and to meet with Eric Adams. And it was in response to the fears and anxieties about gun violence and fratricide and murder of civilians and police officers. It's real. But I have a concern, and that concern is the increasing calls for law and order. Remember that from the Nixonian days and the right wing before? And a return to the Giuliani style quality of life, broken windows, the broken windows theory, the street crimes unit, and paramilitary type policing. You know, the kind of people that break down doors with no knock warrants. Yeah, concerned about that. And there's a warning. John Lewis said, we ain't going back to Jim Crow segregation. And IBW and allies and people who are working in this drug policy accountability area are all saying, we ain't going back to Giuliani style policing. We ain't going back to those days. Why? Because it inflicted massive harm, trauma, and damage on Black families and Black neighborhoods. So that's not the solution, right? That's not the solution. But there is a solution. And Mayor Raj J. Baraka alluded to it in terms of Biden's potential approach. And that is today, we're issuing from the Institute of the Black World 21st Century a public call for a community summit of stakeholders to engage in a conversation and an action-oriented conversation and discussion about creating and sustaining just, safe, and I'm using all of my words intentional, and wholesome communities based on new ideas, new models, reimagining public safety and law enforcement, because we ain't going back to the Giuliani style policing. And what I'm saying is what we need to do is convene everybody. Some people we may like, some people we may not like, some people we've worked with, some we may not have worked with. But this is kind of the way the IBW works in terms of its notion of promoting collaboration, you know, to heal and empower Black families, communities, and nations. We facilitate these kinds of gatherings all the time. So therefore, we need police involved, obviously, correction officers, presidents of the police unions, that's right, presidents of the police unions, the prosecutor, district attorneys, elected officials, business leaders, bankers, scholars, and policy analysts. We need all of those folks involved. But the most crucial ingredient are people who work directly or advocate for communities. And that's faith leaders, and you've heard some of them out, you know, interdenominational faith leaders calling for change. And people are terrified, people are hurt, people are harmed. We can't downplay that. This is real. But the reality is we need to engage everybody, faith leaders, labor, civil rights leaders, civil liberties organizations, police and criminal justice advocates are absolutely crucial to this process. For example, organizations like Vocal New York, CATAL, Just Leadership USA, Center for New Leadership for Urban Solutions, the Coalition for a Coalition Against Anti-Asian Violence, the Drug Policy Alliance, and models of violence interrupters. We have them right here in this community. Man Up, one of the most powerful models in the whole country, right here in East New York. Man Up. And the work that Erica Ford has done for many, many years with Life Camp Incorporated. We need all of them involved. And yes, we have organizations that like 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. Yeah, we got an organization like that still around. The Guardians, Blacks in Law Enforcement, and many, many others need to be involved in this process. So what we're saying is this is possible. And IBW is willing to help facilitate in whatever way we can, have some experience in this area, going way back to our days with the Center for Constitutional Rights. I won't bore you with that now, perhaps we can talk later. But we need to get this done. A summit of this type with comprehensive engagement of stakeholders from all areas and sectors of life could become a model for the nation in terms of addressing one of the most brutal, egregious, traumatizing epidemics and pandemics that we're experiencing in terms of gun violence, fratricide, and murder in our community. It hurts, it's harmful. And so we know Eric, people like myself, I don't know him personally, but you know, he's a likable guy. He's someone that seems accessible, you know, and Clyburn talked about Biden. He said, oh, we know Biden. Well, some people supported Eric Adams because we know Eric. We remember him from the days of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement. In fact, he just had to roll back some remarks because of what he was saying about what he was doing inside the police department. He used an unfortunate sort of disparaging language and describing some of the people who were blocking change, but he was in there fighting, which means he does have some understanding. Question is, how will he calibrate it now? We say we know Eric Adams, our mayor, and we hope he's listening, and we hope he will respond. And so we await a response from our Mayor Eric Adams. And in the words of Dorsey Nunn, the founder of All of Us or None, it must be all of us or none of us. We're not just having one sector of the community decide this. We must all be involved in the solution. And we ain't going back to no Giuliani style policing.